in an extending joint. We no longer worry about this. Now we'll worry about flexion and extension, correct? Remind me of the concave-convex relationship here. What's concave? Radius, and so obviously what on the humerus is convex. And I can't, you already used up capitulum.
The radial, not.
Trochlea. Trochlea is convex on the medial side, right? Distal into the humerus. Okay? So if I flex my shoulder, flex my elbow, I'm sorry, what is the radius doing relevant to the distal into the humerus, the trochlea? I should qualify. What direction is it moving? Dorsally or ventrally?
Dorsally.
I heard dorsal and ventral at the same time. And I know it's not both.
It's dorsal.
Who votes for it's moving? Ventral would be towards the palm.
Yes.
Hand up, ventral. Hand up, dorsal.
I'm recording.
Oh, good. Everybody put their hand down. Ventral would be right. Okay? And so obviously if I'm extending, then that osteo and arthrokinematic motion in the same direction,
Oh, yeah.
so that radius would be moving dorsally, right? Remind me what the resting position is for this joint.
Full extension.
Full extension. The mid-range position, somebody started to say that would be true if we were talking about which joint? Besides the radial ulnar, which was also mid-range. Humeral ulnar. Remember, humeral ulnar and radial are the exact opposite. The open pack is actually full extension. Okay? So now, often you can't get the resting position for this patient. You may think they have a humeral radial restriction to full extension. Well, you can't put them in resting position because they can't get in full extension. So you just may want to put them in as much extension as you can get. Now, Heather can get into full extension. This is not an issue. But a patient might be there. So I would just put them in as much extension as they could. And you guys want me to move it, the radius,
Extension
dorsally, right? So, in this sitting position, I'm going to come around, I'm going to stabilize that, what's that called, humerus, and find that radius, and I'm going to push in a dorsal direction.
okay.
What does this look just like?
Gaining the ulnar.
What joint did you just do this to?
Humeral.
And I thought we were working on extension here. We are. So what's the real difference between mobilizing the humeral radial and the radial ulnar direction? Radial ulnar joint.
Supination.
Yeah, it's what position your elbow is in, right? I'm using it now to gain my elbow extension. Besides the gapping, what other technique did we practice the other day that might have given you a hint about restriction or congestion on that lateral side of the elbow? On that radial thumb side of the elbow. You're close, but you're not valgus. Varus. You know, we use the varus stress test looking for what? Laxity, hypermobility. But what did I tell you is probably, at least in my experience, more often found. Not hypermobility, but hypo. So that might give you a hint that maybe that joint, the humeral radial joint, is a little restricted. Okay? But this is perpetually every year a point of confusion. They'll say, well, I feel like I'm doing the same thing as I was doing at the radial ulnar joint. Guess what? You are. The difference is the range that you're trying to do it in. Here I'm trying to gain extension. Resting position is full extension, so I'm just going to do a dorsal glide in as much extension as the patient will let me get him into. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Other than that, and so instead of doing that dorsal glide maybe more in an elbow mid-range flexion extension, we're just going to do the same technique with the elbow extended. Easy enough to digest? I mean, you really already learned this mobilization. You're just going to do it, practice it here in a moment with the elbow straighter.